All right. Good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to be treating or discussing or teaching CSS layout. By CSS layout, I mean the display property. For today, we're going to be treating the display property because they have different aspects of layout. We have position, we have display, we have a lot of it, right? But today we are going to be touching the CSS display property. Previous class we talked about padding, margin. We talked about we were using the inline styling initially, so we had to like we have to extract all our styling from the inline because inline styling is not the best practice. It's not going to make your work look really nice. All right, so we have to like use the external style sheet after telling ourselves how to use the internal styling because for everything you're learning, you have to be able to teach it also. All right, that's how you know that you know something. And I would like to say this: when I was having my training, last year, I actually I actually did something that helped me by calling out a few persons. I'll just come to the group chat and I'll say, okay, if because I wouldn't say I know it like more than them, but I try to understand so that I can call them out in case you don't get it. I'll teach you. And then the teaching is not basically for me to teach, but for us to have an interactive session so that when I'm teaching, when I'm explaining, the one I'm not getting right, you can actually correct me. So with that, we get to understand the whole aspect properly and very well. And we even sometimes give ourselves a task to make a research and come back and teach ourselves, just within ourselves trainings. That was what we did last week. I mostly just go online on the group chat, Discord channel, Slack, yeah. Then I'll say, okay, so from the last class, we were taught this. If you're having issues with this or with that, feel free to DM me. I will always be available to help. Or sometimes I'll say, okay, let's have another session, just like say 30-minute session or 1 hour session in the evening, right? Because some of us may not be available in the morning and we may not be following the class properly as we're supposed to. So I like to help, and not just to help them, but to help myself also. So I'll just fix a class in the evening. Okay, let's meet on Google Meet so that we can explain to ourselves what we were taught in the morning. By doing that, I get to know it better, right? Because I won't want to fuck up. Even if I fuck up, yeah, all trainings, they will correct me and I'll understand what I don't know. Right? And with that, you get your community, your developer group and all of those things. So it really helps. All right. So when you are learning something, it's best to know how to teach it also because it's going to make you improve in whatever you're doing. That's why we needed to explain to ourselves why the inline styling first and then the internal styling, even if we are not going to be using it for the afternoon, right? So we now finally extract every of our styling to external style sheet, which we call styles.css. And also we explained that while index HTML having an extension of index.html, CSS, which is style, is having an extension of .css, anything.css. Style could be anything.css. Index HTML could be anything.html, but you always have to have index as a landing page, the name of the landing page, index.html as the name of the landing page. If you now have maybe another thing like service page or contact us page, you cannot have contact.html. For your landing page, your home page, or your landing page will always be your index.html. Right. Today CSS layout, CSS display property. Display is just when you are writing your code and then you want to style it, you rewrote your code, you want to style it, and you have a design that is placing an item beside itself. This item is placing an item beside itself. Like it's not just vertical. Sorry, it's not just vertical, but horizontal. Some items could be 3 in a row. Some could be just 2, some could be 4 in a row. That's when display property comes in. Some could actually be column also. We use display for column also, and then we use display for column and row. The layout of the interface, how you want the interface to look like. Okay, the arrangement on the screen. That's what we need. A display property. It actually really helps us to make our website look really nice, enticing, and welcome. So that's display property is like very, very important. Like you can't do without it. That's one of the major things you need to learn, understand, and know it very well before as a front-end developer. Right. So then all right. So we have few common display value. Common display value. Display is a property. Tell me, please, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
All right. Okay, so I was explaining how we can use our display. Display is a property of is an attribute, it's a property of CSS, the CSS property that we use in displaying our elements, in arranging our elements on the screen. So it actually meets the designer's UI of the website. So we have common display value, we have the block, we have the inline, we have the inline block, we have the none, we have the flex, and then we have the grid. So the block elements are those that take up the full weight of the parent container and stack vertically. When an element is a block element, right? When you give a display block, if you give an element or a class a display property of block, it's going to take the entire width of that string, the width of itself. For example, if we have common display value now, let's say this is a single element. If you give this display of block, it's not going to allow any other thing to come on this line. It's going to take the entire width of this row. So that's what block elements, that's what block display does. We are going to explain to ourselves again. This is what we're going to talk about today when we get to the VS Code. And by default, we have div. This is a tag. It's an element, it's a tag that you use like a container. Div is mostly used as a container. So by default, div is a block element. It's a block, has a block display by default. While paragraph also has a block display by default. H1 to H6 also have a block display by default. So when you have a P element on a particular row or line, it doesn't allow with automatically or by default, it doesn't allow any other thing to come on that row. Anything you're typing again is going to come down. It's going to like drop down. Even if you write P and P besides, you need to drop it down. So the same thing as the H1 to H6. While the inline elements flow within the content, taking only as much width as necessary. So that's what inline does. Inline, when you give a display inline, a display property of inline to an element, it allows another item to come to that row. For example, if you, let's say this P, you have a P and then you give P inline. So another P that you have, normally by default, it's supposed to go to the next line. But because you already passed inline, then it's going to like come to that same line. So it's going to like stay beside each other. So we have span as a default inline. By default, span is as a property of inline, a display of inline. While a anchor tag also has a display of inline by default, same as strong. We have few other ones that have a display of inline by default. Meaning by default is when you have span and you have something, a content inside of it, if you have another span, then it's going to come beside the previous one, not on that span. Unlike P or H1, when the next thing that you type is under it. So, but then we have inline block. Inline block is a hybrid of inline and block. This is taking both inline property and the inline display property and then block display property. While we say block with the entire row, while inline block will allow the entire row in a block level styling, right? The entire row in a block level styling. That means if you have, let's say a P, and then you give it inline block, right? For example, okay, let's say we give it inline. That any styling you give to that particular P is going to take the content, the width of that content. For example, this common, if you pass this common and then you give it inline, and you give it BG red, when you give it width, maybe 200, it's not going to actually affect it. It's not going to work on it because you give it an inline display property. But then if you want the width to work on it, then you have to pass inline block property. This is going to get better. We're going to understand it better when we start writing it in code. So inline block takes the property of inline and block element. That's just what it says. The inline block is a hybrid of inline and block, allowing elements to have block level styling while flowing inline. You have block level styling while flowing in. So then the fourth one is the none. We have a display of none. This is a value that hides an element from the layout and makes it invisible. Display of none will take this thing away. If you have a common and then you give it display of none, then it's going to hide it from display. And funny enough, it's not going to actually take the space. We have opacity that if you give opacity 0, that's another star attribute property. If you give opacity 0, that element is still going to have its space. It's going to contain its space. Its space, sorry. But then we are not going to say it. But any other thing cannot stay there. Only with some positioning or stuff like that. But naturally, if you give opacity 0, it's going to maintain its space, but nothing is going to be there, right? While the none, display of none, will take it out entirely. There's no space, no text, nothing. So that's just it. While Flexbox is a modern layout method for distributing space and aligning items in a container. Well, Flex is what is broad, like it's really, really broad. It's wide. So it also is also it's the best that we can actually use for some stuff, while grid is also the best kind of stuff. Both Flex and grid, they actually perform the same function. What function do they perform? They distribute space and align items in a container. For example, if you have a house, let's just use a compound as an example, right? Fenced around. So, and then inside that fence, you are given that fence a property of, let's say display flex. That means anything you have inside that compound is going to be beside each other. Maybe you have 3 cars, right? And then you give this compound. The compound, like, okay, I want your display to be in a flex man, right? So anything inside you, that's what they say. Any item inside the container, the compound is the container, which you apply your flex, your display. While anything inside it is the item that the flex will actually affect. That's those items are those that will items that will actually respect the flex box or the flex property that you give to the parent, which is the container. So if you say display block, that means anything inside, for example, let's just put it that way. Anything inside the compound is going to be arranged horizontal, vertically. It's going to be arranged vertically. But then if you say display flex, anything you arrange is going to be anything you have inside, like the item, is going to be arranged horizontally. So that's just the flex. The same thing as the grid, although there are other ways in which you manipulate and like a lot of stuff you can do with Flexbox and CSS grid layout, right? But then that's just the basic. That's how you just use it basically. So today we are going to touch the block, the inline block, the none, and the flex. We're going to touch the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're going to touch the 5 display value because we cannot do flex. We can do all of this with flex, but we cannot have flex and grid together in the same class. It's not possible. You cannot treat flex and grid together in the same class. So today we are going to start from block and then end on the flex. So before we go to the VS Code, let me take questions. If you have any questions, if you have anything that is not clear to you, just feel free to raise your hand and then we'll answer to your question right now. Or else you can also drop a message or chat on the group chat, and Babola will always be there to respond to you. I'll just spare 1 minute for that in case any questions will come in.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so I have a question, but it's actually from the last class.
Okay, go on.
So could you explain the difference the elements Divi and class?
I didn't get that clearly, please. Okay.
Your voice is cracking. Please, can you? We can't hear you clearly at all. Joy.
Hello, good morning.
Joy, can you mute? Let those girls speak. Can't hear you, Joy. Your network is cracking. We can barely hear you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good spell. Go ahead.
Good morning. Please go on, ask a question.
Please, I have an issue on inline and inline block. I was not ability when you explain that.
Okay, don't worry. You're going to understand it better, right? So just relax, and then you get to understand it better when I start.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, I actually can't. Someone said something just now, but honestly, and
Yeah, our network is bad. Our network is bad,
Joy
Joy.
Idoko.
Yeah, yeah, we can't hear out. Our network is extremely
Okay.
bad.
Okay, while she's dealing with the network, okay. Edo, please ask a question while she's trying to fix her network.
Um, please, regarding the external styling, I don't really get the the link up code. Yeah, from your index HTML to your other CSS styling. Can you hear me?
Okay, were you in the last class?
Yeah,
Yes, I can hear
yes,
you. Were you in the last class?
yes, yes. I was.
But you didn't get,
I
okay,
didn't
no,
quite
no
see
problem.
it.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. But please, I'll mention this. Please, what you did for me, please don't repeat it again. Please. Understood. All right. You know what you did, so I will make sure it's but what you did, don't repeat it again. You have to be very careful when you because situations like that, you don't get a second chance. So you have to be really, really extra careful. Thank you. So concerning the linking, I will explain that again. Just brush it. I'm just going to open a design that we are going to probably be following. Joy, if you are back and your network is okay, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. The network is ish. Okay, let's do it this way, Joy. What if you drop the concern on the group chat, then we can now address it? Because the network is it's really bad. How about that? You can just drop the message on the group chat and then take it from there.
I think she has already. Simple so. Good morning.
Okay. Okay. What's the difference between div and class element? Ah. Okay, Joy, if you can hear me clearly, a div, a div is a tag, is an element, is a tag. While class is an attribute of an element. A div is an element, right? It's an element, it's an HTML element, for example, just like a tag that you use in structuring your HTML, right? While class is just an attribute that you pass to this element. Class is used to get, for example, like we say, when you want to style your element, right? You can either call your element by calling the element tag, which is the div. So now this div is the way we have the way we have H1, H2, H3 to H6, and then we have P, we have UL. That's just an example. It's the same thing as div. All of those things are the same thing as div. They are all tags, right? Why class? Class is not an element. Class is an attribute. Is an attribute. It's just an attribute. It's just something used to identify a particular element. You give it a class, not like the way we have in schools now, like, okay, class 1, class 2, class 3, just to differentiate between, okay, this particular element and this particular element. That shows the difference. So class is not an element, it's an attribute, while div is an element, which I could say div is a tag, right? So that's different. We are going to use div now. We are going to use it here today, and then we are going to use class. So you are going to see the difference between div and class. All right. So looking at this screen, this is what I want us to achieve today. This is what, well, we may not be able to achieve everything, right? Well, we are going to pick, because few of these things now may mean that, okay, we are going to enter some other aspect of CSS. So we may not be able to achieve everything today, but we are going to almost achieve it. All right. So before we jump into the design, let's explain about inline, and then the block elements, the inline elements. Now let me show you guys this thing. I feel like I should remove all of these things so that we can start. Okay. Okay. Comment the inline. Yeah, sorry, the block. Yeah, we're going to have the block here. And then after this, we're going to have the inline. Then after this, we're going to have the inline block. And then after this, we're going to have flex. Flex is just really broad and wide, but then let's just put it that way. Okay, so the block, from the example we gave earlier, if you can't hear me clearly, please feel free to raise up your hand, because this is going to get really, really confusing, and you may don't be lost. Let me just put it that way. Just carefully listen and follow it. I'll be as much as possible to be slow up to make it steady, right? So let's just follow it one by one step at a time. And let's not rush. Some of us already know these things before, so you don't have to drag us forward. Just let's take it one step at a time for those that don't know it at all. So now block, I want to give an example of a block styling, how it looks like, right? So let's see what we have first from this let's see what we have. Okay, this is where we stop. The form. So under it, we want to have a block. Has an example, but let's not use it for now. Let's use age. So let's use age, and then let's say my name, for example. Just use my name, and then my class. Now let's say this is not going to come beside itself. It's going to come under itself. Like my name is going to come on top, and then my class is going to come up on top. I believe we must have been seeing that. Oh no, let's not use H1 because we already styled our H1, so let's use H5 or H3. Yeah. I believe we have not styled H3 at all. And then we have it here. Right. So now this is a block. Why is it a block? This particular H1 is taking the entire weight of the screen, the entire weight of itself, of its screen, like this entire. If I should give it background color now, you're going to see that particular one. Let's just say style. Then we'll say background color red. The red is going to like contain the entire row. This is just an example of block. It won't allow itself is taking the even if it's as this small, right? Like it's just my name is just as this small. But then because it has a block property by default, then it is believed or it is taking itself as okay, I should contain all the space on my row, not allowing another thing to enter this row. That's just what block is, right? While the other one, which is the inline, okay, we have span as an example of inline. Span. So let me say my inline 1, then my inline 2, then let's save this. And then this, because it has a default property, which is inline, then we're going to see my inline 1 and inline 2 beside each other. So let's see. So my inline 1 and my inline 2 is placed beside each other because span has a default property display of inline. So when a property is inline, then it tends to allow another item to come beside itself. That's just, if I should give it color now, then even if it is more than one, then it's still going to allow everything is going to just keep coming beside itself. Keep coming. So if you give one background color, it's going to take the width of itself, just the width of itself. Say style, PG color, and then let's give frame. Save. It's going to take the width of itself, not taking the width of the entire row, just like a block element. It's going to take the width of itself only. So that's the difference between block and inline. While the inline block will take this attribute and then this attribute. It's going to take this property and then this property, meaning that it's going to take the whole block, for example, not entire block. It's going to allow another person to come to that line, but then at the same time behave like a block. Okay, let me just give that as an example. Okay, I think I use something like this here. Okay, let me just copy this inline block. So let me save. Okay, let's see what we have now without styling. For now, we don't have the styling. Let me see if I have the styling yet. Okay, we don't have the styling. It's currently commented out. So for now, let's see what we have. So we have box 1 and box 2. Yeah, I'm using div because div is also a block default element, right? So that's why it's having block 1 and block 2 beside each other. So as soon as I pass, let's say I style it like this. Okay, yeah, this is the styling. I call the box. I called from the class here. I have box. The same thing I'm giving to the second one. That's why I had to pass box to the two. Okay, so then I use div. Div is just the same thing. The way you can use your H, you can use your div also. That's just the servers. Although the purpose may be different, but it's also tag. It's also an element. So then inside the div, I have box 1 and box 2, and I want to style it. So yeah, we have dot box. Then inside it, we pass display inline block. So we give it a width 150 pixel, height 150 pixel, background color light blue, border 1 pixel solid dark blue. Just the width, the type, and then the color. while the last one is margin. This 10 pixel means box. That has to be on all sides. That's this 10 pixel on all sides. So now this with the help of inline box, we are going to have the inline property and then the block property. So let me save this and then let's see what we have. All right. So this is what we have. The inline. Okay, let me explain it this way. For now, we have the inline box, right? Which means that this box currently, for it to be able to have space like this for itself, that means it's taking a block property. Like it's taking a block property for it to be able to have space. Normally, it's supposed to just take the space of the box. But because it's allowing the box to have a width and a height, it's allowing it. That means it's taking a block property. While the fact that it's allowing another box to come by its side, that means it's taking the inline property. Okay, let's see this. If I should remove the block now, let's just remove the block and then leave the inline only display inline. Let me just break this part. This span is aligned and that thing to come by itself beside it. Nonsense. It's supposed to block it. So let me just break it, then add another break, make it so you don't get confused. All right. So now this is what we have with ordinary inline. Ordinary inline, if you check the styling that I have here, I pass display inline, just inline. And what just inline does is it actually allows this box to come by its side. That's just what inline. Inline will not respect the width. Normally, this thing is supposed to take width 150 pixels. It's supposed to take height 100 pixels, right? But then it's not respecting the width and the height because it is an inline, only inline. Inline will always take the width of the content and the height of the content. That's what inline is known for. It will only take the width of the content, which is the width of this box one, and then the height of the box one. If you see, it's not even giving any space. It's just choking the box, the content. So that's what inline does. But then because we already passed inline and then we have two items, right? So each of it is allowing another item to come beside it. It's allowing another item to come beside it. That's just the purpose of inline. So if I should pass block here, then like this, then it's going to respect this 150, 150. But then it's not going to allow that other item to come beside it. So let's see it. See? So it's now respecting the 150, 150 height and width property. Okay. But then it's not allowing this box to come beside it. It's not allowing that box to come beside it. But then in the case where you want, I need this width. Okay. I need this width. And then at the same time, I want this box to be beside it. I want it to be on a single row, right? Please let's be careful. Let's just listen very carefully, okay? I don't want us to get lost. So the first one I did was okay. The inline. Let's try again. The inline only, and then let's save it. Let's see what we have again. Inline will always allow another item to come on the same row as itself. Okay, so now this box is allowing this box 2 to come on the same, to stay on the same row as itself. That's because we gave it a property, a display property of inline. But then from that same styling, we have width and then we have height, which is supposed to be 150 pixel and 100 pixel. But because inline property will not respect width, it will only take the width of its content. It will only take the height. It doesn't want to know maybe you pass 100 or 150 or 200,000 width, right? It's not really concerned about that. It's not respecting all of those things. The only thing it respects is taking the width and the height of itself, of its content. So that's why this thing is just taking the width of its content, then not just taking the width, allowing another item to come beside it. So, but then I need to have while block. Okay, let's use block before we go to the last one. While block will take, but block will respect the width and the height. Okay, it's going to respect the width and the height, but then it's not going to allow this to come beside it. It's not going to allow, because block, like, block is supposed to take the entire row. Okay, supposed to take the entire row. Like the way we have this my name as a block now, it's taking the entire row. So if I should pass a width to this my name, then that width is going to respect the element is going to respect the width, and then break this red background to that particular width. Let's give it a try. Let's see my name. Well, my name. Okay, now let's say width. Then let's say 300 pixel example, then save, and let's see. See, now this because this is the block property, now is taking 300 pixel instead of taking the entire screen. That means you can at the same time you can override that.
Yeah, sorry, network is acting up. Does anyone have any question? Any time our channel continue. I quickly explain and clarify some gray areas so that you can be up to speed. If you have any questions, please just raise your hand and let's see. Hmm? Do you have any question? Are we all following? Okay. See.
We are following, sir.
Okay, Sammy. Yeah, Sammy, please ask your question.
Mine is not really because
What did you
the font is too small. I can't really see what the code is using.
Okay, his font is too small. When it comes back, he would increase its font size so that you can see what's on the screen.
Femi, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. So.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so sorry. I think
So
I'll have
just,
to hear my phone, like you said.
yeah, share your screen and increase your font size, please.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
yeah, we can see your desktop. We are seeing. Yeah, we can see your code now.
Okay. Sorry for that. Let me increase my font size. Okay, is it visible now? Is it clear now? Sammy,
Yes,
yes.
Yeah, all right.
Clear.
I'm sorry for that. So I forgot. Okay, so now, please, I believe we all get to the part where we use block and inline only. So now we need to have the inline property and the block property together. So that's why, and it is not block inline, which we never want, right? Just ensure that you're passing inline block. Inline block. There are a lot of display property. So you can just go home and then try different things on your own. For example, you have inline flex blocks, like a lot of it like this. But then let's just maintain our inline blocks block. So for this display, I want to have the inline property. I want to allow my items to be placed beside each other on a single row. And at the same time, I want that particular item to respect the width and the height. So then the inline block will actually do that for us. Okay, just a minute, please. Let me see how to arrange my screen. Okay, so now we have the inline block property. If I should add another element, or should add another element to this, then we're going to have everything on the same line. That's how it works. Let me do that so we can be sure. And let's see. Let's see. So yeah, we have everything on a single line, on a single row. So because we have the inline and the block property. So the person that asked the question earlier about inline and block, please did you understand what inline
Perfectly
and
well.
okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, and then now let's move to Flex. Let's move to Flex. So Flex works with a container. Like I explained earlier, Flex works with a parent, while that Flex itself affects how would you know that the Flex is working? Is by the changes in the item inside the container. The changes with the item inside the container. Let me give an example to that. So let's say, okay, we have a div. Let's use a div now. Now let's take this div as the parent. Let's just take this div as a container. So, and then I want to pick these guys. Let me copy it and then place it here. Okay. So, all right. Let me borrow a break. Although, okay, let me just borrow a break. Or instead, let's use class here. And then let's call it container. Class container, right? So, and then my styling, I need a space between this container and this other ones. I don't want it to be too close. For now, it's going to be close like this. So I don't want it to be too close. I need space. So let me just call the container. Let me copy this one. I can borrow from it. So I'll comment it. All right, container, and then say margin top. Or instead, let's use padding. Padding for the entire compound. Let's say 15 pixel padding. This should be top, bottom, right, and left. Now let's save. Okay, now we are having a padding. So I need a background color for this background color. I will explain all of this. You guys should just be calm. So let me use this, save, and then all right. So this is what we have. So we have a parent, right, which is the div. And then inside that parent, we have items, which is the children, which are the children. We have the box 1, box 2, box 3, and box 4. Or no. Okay, box 3, box 4. So yeah, we have box 1, box 2, box 3, and box 4. These are all the item inside this container. While these things, why are they even taking this? Why are they even beside each other in the same rows? Because we are passing inline box to it, inline block to it. So then let me just remove the inline block and then we are allowed to go back to default. Let me use item here instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, then item. Yeah, so we save. Let's see it again. All right, so we just have a normal text, box 1, box 2, box 3, and box 4. We remove all the styling because initially the styling is affecting the box, right? But then right now we change it to item, so we don't have any styling for this. So it's just coming as a normal text. All right, and then at the same time, the container also is just taking, container is always, a div is always block element. So that's why it's taking the entire width like this. It's taking the entire width. Now, what did I want? I want to be able to place this item beside each other. You know, here I will have to like pass block, box to all of this so that they can have the display of inline. Okay. But then I don't have to be doing all of this trace. I don't have to like pass inline to each of it one by one. I can easily just pass one item or one class here or one property or one styling to the parent, and then every of these guys is going to be affected. Every of these guys is going to be affected just by passing a style into the parent component, to the parent's elements. Then box 1, box 2, and box 3 is going to like respond to whatever styling I passed to the parent. So that's just what we want to do now. Now we are going to target or call the container and pass a property to it, a value to it. So now we already have background color, and then now we want to give it a display. Okay, so we are giving it flex. Save. This flex means that, okay, any item you have inside of yourself should be displayed in an horizontal row. Is it horizontal or vertical? On a straight line. I get confused with horizontal vertical. So any item you have inside yourself should be displayed on the same line. That's a single row. So let's see. All right, times we have it box 1, box 2, box 3, and box 4. We don't have to like do the box before we can actually make all of this to have a flex. All right, because before we can make them to have an inline, or before we can allow it to, before we can make it to allow another item to come beside it, we can just easily call the container, which is the parent, just call the container. And like I said, naming convention is very good, okay? Because I have item inside of this, that's why I call it a container. Although you can choose your own name, but it's good to use container. So that you can know, okay, this is a container that contains items, right? So then I call the container, here, and then we pass display flex. That means anything inside of you, make it to be inline. Give anything inside of you an inline property. That's just it. Now let me start the item itself. Dot item. Now let's just copy this weight. Let's copy this, then give it. Okay. And then I need small space. These things are too close to each other. All right. But then before that, let's just see what we have. Let's say background color. Let's give brown. And then let's say. All right. So box 1, box 2, box 3, and box 4. They are very close to each other. There's no spacing. So I need small space. I need space around it. So I will just pass margin. Like you guys remember when we were explaining margin and padding, okay? So if you need space within yourself, that's what when you pass padding. But then if you need space outside of yourself, you need to give gap between your neighbor and yourself, then you pass margin. So I need the space to be around. So let's say, or let's just use margin right, since I want everything to have space to the right. Let's just use margin right, and then 10 pixel. Save. Okay, so as simple as that, as very, very simple as that. So now we have box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4 inline, and we did not pass inline to it. We just pass flex to the parent. We pass flex to the parent, and anything inside of the parent is going to take the inline property, inline display property. All right, so let's try something else. Instead of this width, let me comment it out. I hope you still remember how to comment. Just click on in front of it, and then your control and forward slash, or command and forward slash. So now, if I should save this, let's see what we have. This is what we have, saving it, because I already removed the width and the height. So, but then I still need it. I need this thing to have space around it. It's too close to the wall. How do I do that? Is a very simple thing. Is by passing padding, like we already know. Padding. Now let's say padding 20 pixel, and then let's save. So with this padding now, each of the item we have space around inside of it. The content is going to stay in between, while there will be space. Is the container itself is going to stretch. So just like this. So now I have box in between, but then with a padding of 20 pixel around it. It's all of this styling is very simple. Now let's say, okay, I need it bigger. So we pass it 40 pixel. Now let's see, it's get bigger. So that's just how you use your margin and your style and your padding. Margin gives us space between each of the items. Let me increase that. Let's see what we have. If I should increase this 40. Okay, so now we have this. So, but then in some cases, when you only have 4 items, you have 4 items on this row, and then you want these items to be distributed across we want the items to be distributed across, or maybe to take even space around this. Or okay, let's start with this one. We want the item to be distributed across this line. Yeah, I will use that so that okay, everything was going to like from the beginning to the end. I don't want it to have space by the right like this. This empty space is for nothing. I want everything to contain the entire row. So what do I do? That means I don't even need a margin right, because this margin right is going to give me space like this, space like this, space like this. But then in this case, I want to have this to contain the entire row. I need to have these 3 guys or these 4 guys to contain this entire row, which means I don't need a margin right. In the right mind, we believe that this box 4 will be here, somewhere here. Then this box 3 will be somewhere here. And then this box 2 will be somewhere here. So now let's see how that works. Let's remove this first. Then let's save it. And let's come back. And okay, we have this again. Without the margin, everything is joined together. Now I need to have it to move across, like to spread across the line. So on the parents, since you already tell the parent that okay, anything you have inside of you, I want it to have an inline display property. I want it to be able to be beside each other, just like that. Let me just put that way. Because if it is inline, then it's not going to take this padding. So let's just say I want it to be beside each other, to be on a single row. That's why we pass display flex. Okay. So then we can now say justify content. I will explain this. Then we have space between. Justify content, space between. Let's see what we have. See? Then what justify content will work where you have flex. It's because I already passed flex to the parents that okay, anything you have inside of you should be beside each other. Now, justify content. How do you want to justify the content inside of this container? Justifying the content inside of this container. Justify content is just a normal property also. It's a normal CSS property. So justify content. Now, 3 things, or we have 2 stuffs inside the justify content. We have the space evenly. We have space evenly. We have space around, and then we have space between. If we use space around, let's see what we have. Right now, space around is given, yes, it's spreading the old content out, but then it's given a space around of it. It's given a space. This space is the space around. Okay. Now the second one is the space evenly. That means I need to have even space between all of these items that will be inside of me. I need to have an even space between this item that will be inside of me. So calculate it yourself and give me the even space. That mostly look like, okay, this is the even space. It's going to look like space around, but then it's not space around. It's just, and if this space is the same thing as this space, it's the same thing as this space, like the width, if you look at it properly very well. You see that, okay, the size, the width of this is the same thing as this, and this. That's space evenly. Give me an even space between all of the content or item that will be having inside of me. Let's try something. If I should add 2 more items to this, it's going to just adjust based on what you already applied. It's going to adjust based on what you already applied to the parents. Let's do that. 1, 2, 6, and then 5. Now let's save, and then let's see it. See, it automatically adjusts based on what you already applied to the parent. Now everything is now taking the same width, the same width, the same width in between. That's space evenly, right? But then if I should pass the last one, which is the space between, that means give me space between each of the items. I need space between each of the items. That's one should be at the other end, the other one should be at the other end, that's the right end, the left end, and then spread everything to just let them just adjust each other, push them each other, spread it, let them contain the entire screen, the entire row. All right, so this is an example of space between. This is an example of space between. So now here we have this one from the left, this one from the right. Okay, so it's actually spread everything out entirely to contain the whole weight of that parent. So if it is evenly we give space. Normally this is not evenly because there is no space here. But then with evenly, the same space that we have by the left is going to be what we have in between, and then by the right. And then when it is spaced around, it's going to give space around of the item, around of each, like the parent like this is going to have space around of it. So that's just how you use. And then at the same time, you can use flex start if you don't want to have spaces like this. You want everything to come to join first. You can just have flex start. You have flex start, save, then everything will go back to normal. That's flex start. That means this flexing that I have should start from the beginning. Let it be from the beginning. Okay, and with the beginning, that means we don't have any space in between the boxes, so everything is going to join together. That's flex start. Justify content, flex start. The last one we have under justify is flex end that we're going to be talking about today. Flex end means push everything to the end of the flex. Push everything to the end of the flex, just like flex end. That's pushing everything to the end of the flex. All of this thing is really, really interesting. You just have to calm down and then understand why is it working that way. Flex end. And all of this, if I should remove the flex, it's not going to work. It only works based on the attribute, based on the value you already passed to the display of the parent. That is what is making all of this to work. We also have the third one that also works very fine with flex. There are other things that work with flex, but then we use mostly. We use the display flex. We use the justify content, which is flex row, flex and flex start, space between, space evenly, and then space around. And then the last one, which that one we will not even see the difference right now, is align items center. Align item center. This one we are not going to see the effect right now, but then it's align item center allows you to align all your items to the center. Let me remove that for now. When we need it, I'll introduce it. Okay. So yeah. What if I need space between all of these things, and at the same time I want it to be at the end like this? Well, I've not tried it before. Let me see if it's going to work. Let me pass gap. This only works for grid. I know it works for grid. Let me see if it's going to work for flex. So let's say 10 pixels. Okay, no, it doesn't. That means it only works for grid. So for us to do that, say, okay, I need space between this, and this. You can just come to this, to itself, to the item itself and pass margin. Okay, say margin, just make it around, and then let's use 10 pixels. Margin around 10 pixels. That means margin space between your neighbor. So now this is what we have. So with the help of flex, justify content, item center, all of this, you can manipulate your content, your UI, the display of your screen, or to give you however you want it with the help of flex. And then flex is very broad and very deep, like I explained. So we have other items that we're going to be touching moving forward. But for now, let's just focus on the basic display of flex. So, and at the same time, okay, I can choose that I don't want this thing to be like this anymore. I want it to be on a straight line. Like I want it to be vertically arranged. Like I want it to be vertically arranged on the block mode. Okay. So I can say flex row. Flex. No, sorry, not that. Flex still, and then flex direction. Flex direction column. Column means okay. By default, flex is giving us a row, right? By default, without this, it's giving us a row, which this is it, a row. Okay. But then, okay, I don't want you to give me a row anymore. I want to override that row, by that default property, that default value, which is a row. I want to override it with a column. I need to override it with a column. I want the item I have inside of me not to be a row, but then to be on a column. That's why we have to use flex direction to override the initial value of flex, which is the row. Then if I should save this, and then let's see it. All right, so now we have flex row. Okay, So everything, and you already know that, okay, each of our item is a block. So everything is going to take this item. It's going to take like the entire width of the screen of itself. So that's why it's appearing like this. Okay. And this is coming in a column view because we changed the flex direction. The direction of the flex, what direction do you want the flex to come? So then you can also pass row if you don't want, although row is by default already. By default, you have a row. So if you want to use a row, you don't have to pass this justify flex direction. Okay. So you just pass flex only, and then it's going to give you a row. But if you want to make it to come in a column mode, that's when you need to pass the flex direction column. Now this is row, and then we can have column. So let's save it, and then we have column. At the same time, you can reverse this column. I think I'm going too far. We are touching too many things, but let's just stay here for now. So now let's do this. Let me give this width and height again, and then let's save it. Let's save it. All right, we are back to our width and our height. Let me remove the padding also, because I don't need this. Save, because with the width and the height, you don't really need the padding. So now we have width and the height. Like I said, your block element is going to like take the entire row, but you can override that by passing a width to it, and which is what we do here. Width 150 pixels. Now this is taking a 150 pixel width of the entire row. Okay. So now what do I even want to achieve now by doing this? I need all of these things to come to the center. I need all of these guys to come to the center. I don't want them to be by the left here. I want them to be by the center. So what do I do? And already you know that this item is located inside a parent. And it is this parent that is deciding how the item is going to look like with our flex direction, and all of those. So it is deciding how this is going to look like. Okay. So now I want all of this to come to the center. Items, I want this item to be placed in the center. So that's where align items comes in. So yeah, we don't need this for now. Although, okay, let me just leave it. So let's say align items center. Now let's see what we have. Okay, so now the parent is now aligning all the items inside of it, aligning it to the center. So please, let's not get confused. That align item also can align to the end and can, okay, I think, let me explain this. Yeah, if we have our flex direction to be a column, then we use align items to decide where we want it to be, right or left. Because now it is currently on a column, right? It's a column like this, having a straight line. So if it is a row, then we have to use flex, justify content, decide if we want it to be on the right or on the left or by the center. Okay. So now let's try something with our align item. We can say flex end also for our align item because this thing is still on a column. This is our flex direction. It's still having a column. So then we have to use align items. Now let's see. We have it like this. Okay, by the end, if I should change this thing to row, say okay, let me just remove this and then save it. Now let's see what we have. Okay, it's not respecting these align items anymore. Although it may be respecting it in some other, maybe because, okay, we'll explain that later. But for now, let's just assume that it's not respecting it anymore because we have already changed our direction from column to a row. And in that case, we have to bring back our flex, justify content. Then let's save it. We want it to be flex end. So now let's have it now. We have a flex end. So that's just different. When you are working on a column, you have to use your align items to arrange your items either to the end, to the start, or to the center. And then if you are using flex direction row, then you have to justify content to arrange it to either the flex start, flex center. Okay. And again, you know, when you have a column, you can't specifically say space between, because what are you space between? All right. You can't specifically say space between. Now we have flex end, for example, okay? So if I can't say space between with align items because it's going to like just keep going because of the space we have. All right, so that's why it's either use flex end, flex start, or center. The space between for align items does not really make any sense, okay? But then in some cases where you want to use the justify content and the align items together, you need to use both together. Okay, so now let's see how we can use both together. Let me remove all of this and make it just one. I'll take questions very soon, but let's just complete this aspect. All right, we have this. Then I need to give my container a width and a height. Let me just give it the height only. Height, let's say 200 pixels. Say. Okay, let's use view H. Huh? Okay. Well, view H is also a value, actually, let's say if height value, yeah, height value that you can use to decide how the height of the content or your container. Let's not get confused with that. It's just view height. View height. I can say 80 view height, view height. This is taking the height of the screen, like 80% of the height of the screen, of the view. Yeah. From here to here is a view. That's a view. From here to here is a view. You can see the way my mouse, my cursor, my pointer, sorry. So from here to here is a view. Now you are passing that, okay, this particular container should take 80% of that view height. That means it should take 80% of, from here to here is 100%. Now 80% is going to be like maybe from here to here. So that's what view height does. Instead of using pixel, if you want to use pixel, you're going to use like a very long pixel, like maybe 1000 or maybe 800 pixels. And I don't want to have that, that large number. So instead of that, I can just use 80 view height. You can have view height and you can have view width, view VW and then VH. So both is also respecting the screen at a particular time, that particular height of the screen view and that particular width of the view. So let me say this height is VH. So now this is what we have. All right. So now we are taking the 80% of the view height. Now what I want this box to be okay. Let's start from start. Let's just use it like that. By default, let me remove this guy. By default, just passing a flex for one item inside the container. Flex for one item inside the container is going to start by default with flex start, flex start, flex start, flex start. So, and then I will explain this. If you are using a row, if you are working with a row like flex, and then you didn't pass just flex direction to the column, it is just a row. I want to have it at the back of your mind that here is your justify content. Your justify content works vertically. Your justify content works horizontally, while align item works vertically. Justify content works horizontally, while align item works vertically. Let's see that. Let's say justify content. Now let's say flex end. Save it. Now this is going to push it to the end. It's just horizontal. It's just going to work horizontally. So that's just what the justify content does. Now we can override this and give it center for it to come to the center. Now let's save again. And then wow, it's come to, this is just working only on the horizontal axis of that box, not the vertical axis. All right. So if we want this thing to work on the vertical axis, that means I need this guy to be at the bottom. That means from here, push it to the bottom. Then we have to include align items. Align items. Now we have flex end. Flex end. So now we have it here. So align item is working on vertical axis, while justify content is only working on the horizontal axis. So You can manipulate this to locate this at the end by saying align item flex end. Currently, this is flex end for this guy. Okay, but because our justify content is center, that's why it is at the center. It is flex end for this container. This container now, this is the end of the container on the vertical axis. This is the end. Okay, but because our justify content is center, that's why on the horizontal axis, it is at the center. If I should change it to end also, flex end, then it's going to be located at the end here. So now this is the end of this horizontally, and this is the end of this vertically. If I want it to be located here, I'm going to pass, because here now, this is going to be the end of the justify content. The horizontal axis, this is going to be the end of it. And then the vertical, this is going to be the start of it, because this is the beginning, okay? So now I can say flex end, yeah, still flex end. And then this is going to be flex start. Flex start. That means come back to the top on the horizontal, on the vertical axis, and then still at the end on the horizontal axis. So that's how you can manipulate this thing. And you can also bring it to the center, to the middle here, by saying align item. You know, here now is going to be the middle of the horizontal and the middle of the vertical, which is going to be center. So that's what we can now do here. We can say align justify center, and then align item center. Now let's save it, and then this is what we have. So both horizontal center, vertical center. So for us that we were trying to work with form, instead of using the padding that I explained last week that we were going to talk about it, we can now have a box here. We can have our form, have everything we want, and then use our display like this, display flex, and then justify center and item center to place it at the center of the screen. It's as simple as that. It's very, very simple. The same thing here, you can do it for the same thing too. Because this box, you know, by default, is going to be at the start. And we did not pass anything inside. We did not pass a display flex to the box, to the one here, to this div. That's why this thing is here at the edge. Now, let's see what we can do to that. So, okay, we have a div, and then we have a text. But before that, let me take this out. It is not good to have something like this, because you should not have a text inside a div. You should have a text inside a P, a H1 to 6, a strong, a span, just like that. Well, if you have it this way, it's going to work, but it's not best practice. So instead of that, let me just cut this guy out and then put it inside a P. Now let's save. We're still going to have the same thing. We still have the same thing, okay? So now what we need to do is to make this item to come to the center. I want this box one to be at the center. I need it to be at the center. So what do we do? Let me call this item, go to styling, item, remove this, yeah, let me just remove this margin for now. We do display, flex, okay? By default, it's going to be start, like I said. So start, nothing is there yet, okay? And then, okay, did I style a P? I'm coming, or okay, I did not. All right, so then I can now say justify content center, and then align items center. Now let's save, and then we'll see box is at the center. It's as simple as that. Just with a justify content center, align item center, then it's bringing it just as simple as that. If you have more than one P, inside, let me save it. Okay, let me just copy this. Copy. Done, and then this done, and then let's save it. We're going to have two items just flex to each other. Okay, that's because we pass flex to the item. Yeah, the item here is taking a flex, so it's flexing this P and this P together. But then they are both at the center because we have justify content and align item to the center. So they are both at the center. Okay, we can do something like this also. If you want to have space between this guy, let's say you want this one to be here and this one to be here, you can just say justify content space between, and then you save, and then you have space between. Let's use space around or space evenly, save, and then you have space evenly. It's as simple as that. Now we have even space between and around the box. Now, in the case where you need to have this box and this box on top of each other, instead of flexing beside each other, you can just pass flex direction, like we said, column, and then save it. And then let's see, now we have flex direction column. Okay, and then our specify content, and then align item. Align item now is now working. Let's remove this first. Align item now is now going to be working. Now, this is it. If you're on a column, align item will work horizontally, while justify will work vertically. But if you are on a normal flex row, then align item will work vertically, while justify content will work horizontally. So that's what we have here. If I should save this now, then it's going to be at the center. Align items, center. Okay. So let me remove this. No. Let's say align item flex start or flex end. Let's see what we have. Now, align item is pushing everything to the end. Normally, it's supposed to push it down. If we were using our normal row, it's supposed to push it to the bottom. But because we are now on a column, now it's now pushing it to the end on a horizontal line. Horizontal axis is now pushing it to the end. Okay, so now if we want, let's say we want flex start here. Flex start, then it's going to take it to the top. Flex start. I don't know why this justify content is not working well, but it's supposed to take it to the top, and then we have align items, flex end to arrange it however you want it. So that's just how we use our flex direction, justify contents, and then align items. Okay, but we are not working on that today. We are not working on justify flex direction. So now this is what we want to do. Okay, after doing all of these, explaining how to use the flex, justify content, and align items to ourselves, I'm going to delete everything we have on our screen now, and then we are going to pick up this design. Looking at this design now, we are going to have, although I'll take questions before that, we are going to have a div here, another div here, and then you're going to, inside this div, you're going to place this image inside of it, and then inside this, you're going to have our form. Okay, so but before that, let's just take questions, see if you have anything that is not clear to us, or you're not getting some aspect of this flex and flex direction properly. Please, let's take questions. Let's take questions. Let's take questions. I need you guys to please ask questions if they're not clear, so that you will feel in today's task, because there will be tasks today. Okay, and this is what we are going to be designing. This is what we are going to be designing. You are going to code this out. All right, since there's no question, I believe you have been asking your question on the picture.
Good morning.
Okay, Sammy. All right, sorry. Ask your question.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sammy. Godwin, please unmute yourself for now. Mute yourself for now. Sammy, continue.
Okay, please, my hands have been up since, like, I'm not following up with this flex. So I'm just trying to catch up, just following, and I'm still not getting it. It's not clear to me.
All right. Okay, the next question, Anonymous. I will attend to that, Sam.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, the box that you created that you gave the color to be red, is it relative, like the conditions that you are giving, is it relative to the container or relative to the main, like the user screen? Because, okay, for instance now, you gave the container prescriptions to be, let's say, half of it, or let's say 200, the width to be 200, those box that will be the box that will be inside, will it be relative to that container? That's my question.
Okay, yeah, anything that is inside a container will take, okay, let me, I think I understand what you're trying to say. Thank you very much. So let's say, for example, this container is taking a weight of, let me just use 80%.
200.
Or, yeah, let's just use 100, let's just make it full. Just for example, 100%. So that means the container, which is this, is supposed to take from here to end. That's 100%. Or let's use 80. Let's just use 80. So we're going to see what we're doing. 80% is taking 80% of the width of the screen, right? So from here to here is 80%. Okay. So now anything I pass, if I should pass this box to take 100%, that 100%, because because I call it 100% does not mean it's not going to stretch outside its container. No, it's going to take the 100% of the container. That means it's going to start from here to here. 100% of this box in relative to this container is from this edge to this edge, because this box does not know anything outside of the container. This box does not know that there's life outside of its parent. The only life it knows is okay, inside my parent. So if I should give it width 100%, let me remove this and give it width 100%. Now it's going to take the width of the parent. That's 100% of the parent. Okay, and if I should give it 50%, it's going to take 50% of its parent. It's the width you are giving to the child is in relative to the width that you have for your parent. So just because my parent is 80 does not mean I will now have this to now take more than 80. So let's do something like this. Let's reduce this. Let's make it 50% and make this 40% and make this say 90%. It's still not going to, because this is 40 and this is 9, does not mean it's not going to stretch outside of the 40%. But instead, it's going to take the 90% of this 40%. Okay, so this is it. Now it's taking 90% of the parent. The parent is 40, and then this is taking 90% of the parent. So that's just how it is. It's just taking the relative width of the parents. All children are in relative to their parents, are in relative, it's the height of the. So Anonymous, I don't know if that answers the question. Or...
Good morning.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good morning.
Okay, so I want you to like go over that conditions for the align items to work and the justify context to work.
Okay.
Like I didn't really get that part. That what are the conditions for it to work? When will it work and when will it not work?
Okay, fine. Thank you. I'll treat that with Obases with Obuma's question. Obases, let me take your question.
It's not actually a question, but it's something you're doing when you did flex end and then row gap did not work. I just checked it out. Column gap or just normal gap will work.
Okay. Thank you. I thought I expected it to work. I think that was because I was passing. I was using flex direction. Yeah, it was later that I get to remember. Thank you very much, Obases, for that. Okay. That means we may not need the margin and all of those things. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me. From Obama, flex is you pass flex to a parent. Okay, let's put it this way. We have items, right? And then all of those items, we have 4 items. Let's go back to where we start. Yeah, where is our item? Okay, yeah. So we don't get confused. Okay, so we have 1 item, 2 items, we have 3, 4. We have 4 items inside a container. The way we used to have UL, and then we have LI inside of it. So these are items inside a container. This UL is a container, is a parent to all of this LI. We have treated that a couple of times, so I don't think I should go back to that anymore. So anything that supersedes you is your parent, and anything that is inside of you is your child. If it is more than one, they are your children. Okay, so now these items are children to this container, while this item are taking this container to be their parents. Okay, so everything they are going to do is going to be within this container. All right, and then this container now is the parent. Now, the parent now wants to decide, how do I want my items to look like? How do I want my items to be displayed? Okay, let's remove the flex first and all of this first. And let's make this 100. So it's going to fill the entire. And let me remove the padding. Okay. Padding. Let's make it look really visible. Let's use something like can anybody give us a color? Let's use sky blue. Okay. And then let's remove this, all of this. Don't need it for now. Let's see what we have. No. I need to pass, my item does not have a text, so I need to give it a width and a height, so I'll see what I'm doing. All right, so let's just give width. Let's say width is 100 pixel, and then let's give height 100 pixel, and then let's give background color. Let's give it this aquamarine. I hope this is clear to us. So why am I giving width and height? Is because my item is not a text, does not have a text inside. So without this height, I'm not going to see anything. Let me show you. If I did not pass anything, I won't see it because it doesn't have any property. So there's nothing. Okay, so that's just the problem. There's nothing. But then I will need to pass this so that I can see that, okay, my item does have a width and a height and a background. Now let's see it. So these are the items here. It's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But because, okay, by default, there won't be any space between it. There won't be, let me increase this. Let me make it 200. 200. Now, by default, everything is taking a column by default, right? They are all inside their parent. All of these guys are inside their parent, which is this sky blue, okay? But then by default, when you do not have any styling for it, like you do not have any flex or just anything, by default, they will always be on a column. That is by default. And then there won't be any space between it. There won't be any space between it. All right. So now I want these items, I want them to be in line of each other. I want them to be on a single row. That the flex comes in first. That's okay. Now this parent, now whatever that is inside of you, I don't want it to come like this, like in a column view. I want it to come like in a flex view. Everything should be on a single row, like on a single row, horizontal row axis. So that means our parents now, which is the container, then we add display flex to it. If you are using inline, inline is affecting itself, not the children. Inline block will affect itself, it won't affect the children. So if you need the display to affect the children inside of it, that's when the flex comes in. So now after this flex, now let's save and see what we have. So now we have everything flex to each other. Okay, now these are inline to each other. That means on a single horizontal axis. Okay, so then I need a gap. I need a gap between it. The first one I said was, okay, let's have the one someone just came up to help us now is with the gap. I was thinking this gap is supposed to work with flow, but then it's working with flex also. Gap 10 pixel. Now let's save it. See what we have. Now we have this and this with the gap. That means, okay, with the gap now, this gap give me a gap between my items. I don't need to come to the item and say, okay, I want margin bottom or margin top or anything. With this gap, I can easily specify the space that I want between each of the items. Okay, I can say row gap. I can say row gap, which is what I tried earlier. And then, okay, it's still not working. That means it's going to be column gap. Column gap. Let's see if it's going to work. Okay, now column gap is working on the row. But I don't really understand why that is it. But then column gap is working on the row. Why row gap work on a column? I think that's just the way it is. Okay. So or instead of that, we can just pass gap. This gap is going to be for both column and row at the same time. So Now we have 50 pixels. But then if I don't want this, I want this guy to be at the end. Already we understand what Flex does. Flex will always arrange something by row, on the row by default. It's going to be on a row by default. And then we can change that Flex. Okay, I don't want it to be on a row. I want it to be on a column. That's where this one comes in. Then we say Flex direction, column. Then we save it. So now it's going to be on a column. All right. Now what I want is, I want everything to be like, I need space between each of these items. So let me just remove this Flex direction column because I want to work on a row for now. I need space in between the item. I don't want it to be just like this together. I want it to be this to be by the left and this to be by the right. So now this is what I'll do. Say justify content. Because like I said, if you are using a row, right, justify content is going to be the one that will work on the horizontal axis. If you're using a column, align item is going to be the one that will work on the horizontal axis. So now we are using a row by default, row, and then we are going to use justify content. Now I need it to have space between. Now let's see. Then we have one here and one here. It's very simple, very, very simple, not difficult, very simple. So, and at the same time, I can say flex start, or say, okay, space around. That means I need a space around of the item, just more like a padding, the way you give padding to parent. So that's it, space around of the item. And at the same time, now if you can see, this is not even because this is like more than this and more than this or something. So now let's see what space evenly will do. I expect it to have an even space around. So now we have an even space. So now this space by the left is the same thing as the space by the middle and the same thing as the space by the right. So that's what space, that's justify content. Just how do you want it to look like after being on a row? The flex will place your item on a row, that is horizontal axis. Then the justify content will now decide, do you want it to be space between each other? Do you want it to be spaced around, or do you want it to be spaced evenly? Okay. And then at the same time, we can now use our align items to bring either of these, to bring these to the bottom, because from here to here is our container. This is where the parents can contain. From that is taking the whole thing. Okay. So justify content will not be able to bring these items to the bottom. The only thing that can do that, as far as we are still working on a row, on a flex row, then the only thing that can do that is align items. Now let's pass align items. Align items. Now we say flex end, because I want it to be at the end here. At the end here. So we say flex end. Now let's see. Okay, so we have flex end. As simple as that. Now at the same time, I can say justify content to be at the end also, flex end. Let's remove this gap. Let's just give this gap 10. Flex end. Now everything will be at the end. Now end, because we have flex end. So this is end for horizontal and this is end for vertical. End for the horizontal here on this axis, row axis, and then end for this column axis. So if we say start, it's going to be located here by the start of the horizontal and start of the vertical. So now let's try that. Flex start. Now let's save. Then we have both items at the start of the horizontal and start of the vertical. Okay, so it's very simple. It's just for you to understand it, and then by the time you start using it, or by the time we start writing our code to actually bring out this UI, then you guys will understand again better. So that's just, then we use our gap to give space in between of the item. Gap, we have the column gap, and then we have the row gap. Okay, and also if we are working on, let's say we want to override a row, let's say flex direction. Let's just use that for now, and then we say row. Okay, so now let's save it, and then see what we have. Yeah, it still starts. Now, in this case now, we can now give align item to be flex end. Let's say flex end. Normally, our align item is supposed to bring this thing to the bottom, like here. But because we already changed this to flex direction row, now our align item will now bring it to the end here. It's going to bring it to the end here because when you change to row, now, sorry, it should be column. This should be column. Column. When you change to column, then align item will replace justify content. Why justify content will replace align item? That's how it works. So now let me give this flex end and see what we have. Just flex end. And then, yeah, this is what we have. Flex end. Normally, it's supposed to come to the bottom here. But because we already changed to column, so now already it's taking this as the bottom. Now it's taking this at the bottom. Okay. So then the justify flex end will also take the row. Now we are going to have this here. That's just like the opposite of what they do when it is on the row and then when it's on the column. So let's not get confused about that. Just the opposite of what they do when they are on a row and when they're on the column. So when it is on a row, justify content will always act on the horizontal axis, while align item will act on the vertical axis. When it is on a column, align item will act on the horizontal axis, while justify content will act on the vertical axis. Okay, so that's it. Are we clear? Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Obama.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Although we are not supposed to, you can't get everything now. So when you have the task and then you have to go back, watch the video again or make some research and try to do it, you're not getting it, you do it again, you're not getting it. At some point you get it and then you know it. Okay, this is what it does. So there's one other thing. Should I even mention that? Okay, let's not go there now because we are getting to. All right, Chineye, please, your question. I don't want us to have too many to deal with.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Barry.
Okay. What if there is a text on and below each of the box? How will you do that?
Below each of, you mean, yeah?
Yes.
Like at the bottom.
Each of them have a text below it.
Okay, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. By below, why is this not giving me 4 items? Okay, okay. I'm coming. Let me reduce the size. Okay, like this. Now we have this. Okay, let's bring it back to the center. Let's use center. Center for groups. Okay, center. Okay, now we have this right center. Okay, now what you're saying is if we have a text at the bottom of each box, each item. Okay, now let's try that.
Yes.
Since you said at the bottom, let's put a P here. Bottom one. Bottom one. Okay. Let's do it first. Let's see what will happen. Okay, the way the parents will act in this scope is the parent does not know if what I have inside of me is a text or another container. It does not know. So what it's going to do is just flex everything as it is. Everything is going to take the space they're supposed to take. Like this bottom now is going to take, it's not attached. Let me put it that way. The bottom is not attached to this item at all. The only way you can attach it to this item is to carry it and put it inside of this place. But then as it is right now, it is not attached to this item. And then this container, which is the parent, will now see the item inside of it as 8. That means I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items inside of me. Now let me assume that I want to use flex row. Let me save this and then save this. Everything is going to take their own space. Like each of these items will take their own space automatically. Let's use space between. Now let's see what we have. See, everything is taking their own space each. Now the box here is taking its own space of the shared space. You know, we said justify content space between. That means share the space among all of them and let them start from the beginning and end N at the end, okay? So now it's not like because this one is a text, now it's not going to like take its own space. No, every of this item is going to take their own space differently. Everything is a children. All of them, they are all child to the parent. So they have equal rights. It's not like one. The only time you can specify or just manipulate that, okay, I want the first one to not have the same right is that's an advanced part of the CSS, and then we're not going to do that today. But by default, each of the items inside the container, they all have an equal right, and they all have the right to take each of their own space evenly, not even, it's evenly. So now if you see it now, this the amount of space this guy is taking is the amount of space this bottom is taking. The same thing is what this one is taking. The same thing is what this one is taking. So the only way we can actually achieve something else, if we want this bottom to be at this place and this one to be at this bottom, like this, is to group this. We have to group these two together. We have to group these guys together and group these ones together. And do you think we should go that today? Do you think we should do that today? Okay, let's see how it's going to look like. If we want this bottom to be at the bottom, like it's not like a label to each box. Let's have a label to each of these boxes. So how do we even do that? Is we have to wrap this one. We have to wrap this to this guys now, wrap it together. Let's just bring it. And then this is going to get a little bit tricky. Items. Okay. Now let's change this one.
Add S. Add S to the second div.
Hey, I didn't get that. Please, can you?
Like you should add S to the second div so that you don't have any function.
Okay. All right, fine. That's better. I was thinking of removing it there. Okay, fine. Now let's see what will happen now. Okay, no. Now we have item. Okay, this and this. Let me explain that. This items now is a div on its own. Okay, is a div on its own, which is also a container inside a container. And then this container is containing another item. I don't think we should do that today, please. Let's not get confused. Let's just maintain what we have for now, okay? But then if you want to achieve that, that's the only way you can achieve it, okay? You have to wrap this item, this one, wrap this one inside this one, okay? Wrap this guy inside this guy. Wrap this guy, since you want this bottom with this text to be like a label to this item, okay? You have to wrap the two together inside a single container. That means all of them will now have one parent. These two guys will now have one parent. Then this item will now be taking the normal width or the normal scope or the normal styling of other ones. This thing is going to get really, really confused. But then that's how it is, okay? If I place this outside like this, the parent is going to see this as one. It's going to see this one as one item. See this line 107 as two items, second item. See this text as third one. It's not seeing the text as together with the div. It's just seeing them differently as each of its children. Okay. So now the only way to wrap to make this one together with this one is to just copy these two, because these two now we want them to be together. Copy these two and then create another div, call it an item. Okay. And then place this one inside of it. You can do the same thing for this. Just copy the one that you want together, copy this item, and then place this one inside of it. Do the same thing for the last one. Let's see what it's going to look like. That item, and then place this one inside of it. Now let's see what it looks like. Okay, now we have a box and a text, a box and a text, a box and a text. Who asked the question? Sorry, I can't remember the name. Does this explain? Okay, sorry. Does this explain what you were actually confused about?
Yes, that means each of them are going to have double children inside the div.
Exactly. Why? Yeah, that's just what it means. While this parent, this container only knows that, okay, I have 4 children. I have this one as a single children, this one, and this one as one child. Okay. Now it has 4 children inside of it. While each of the children also have two children. So each of these children now have two children inside of each of them. So that's just, if you see from the display now, this mother now is like a grandmother, okay? And then this is another parent which contains, let me try something. Let's change this one and then let's change it. Let's give it a different color. So let's see. That's what my mom was trying to explain. I get it. So now let's pass S, since we now added S to that one. And then let's give it 150. And then let's make this maroon.
Golden rod.
Golden rod. Okay. Golden rod. Now let's see what we have. Oh, what's up with our golden rod? Items, background color, golden rod. Let me see. Okay, I've not saved this. Let me save this. Okay, now this is what we have. Now, this is the initial parent, which contains, this parent now is believed that I have 4 children inside of me. And I'm already past flex to that parent. That, okay, this parent here, this sky blue. Anything you have inside of you, all your children should have a flex attribute. Okay, and that gives us this on a single row, on a single horizontal row. And then also we now pass to that parent again, which is the container that, okay, the children should have a space between them. They should not just be together. Instead, they should have a space between them. So that's why they have spaces like this between them. All right. Now the item center is to make all of them be at the center like this, just the way we have it at the center. Everything should be at the center of yourself. Don't just place them at the top or at the bottom. Let them be at the center. That's why they are at the center. Now, the other parent, which is this, the one with the golden rod, which is a child. This one now is a child to this, okay? Now, this parent now is not having another content inside of it. Now, it's having this as a child and then this as a child. Let's see what we can do to place these two guys also at the center of their own parent. Let's see what we can do. To do that, since we gave this one a class of items from what we have there, we gave it a class of items, right? And then we have 2 children inside of it. So what we need to do is just to make this one also to have almost the same thing that the parent has. All right. So how do we do that? We give it display of flex also. Display flex, right? And then we say items, we say justify content center, because we want to place this guy to the center. Let's see first before I will now explain what we want. For now, the 2 items is going to be on a horizontal. They're going to be beside each other, and that will not be nice. But let's see it first. Items also. Sorry, align. I'm so more used to Tailwind. Align items center. Now let's see what we have. Save. And let's save here. All right. So these 2 guys, because we passed flex, automatically it's going to give us a row, right? That's why we have this and this together by itself beside each other. But we don't want it. We want this bottom to be at the bottom of this item, this green item. So what do? We just come here and then give it flex direction, because we don't want it to be on the row. We want it to be on the column. Flex direction, column. Now let's save and see what we have. See, as simple as that. It's just now, this is what we have. We have a parent who has a flex, and then the flex is a row by default. So we are not passing justify our flex direction to it. So by default, it's giving us a row, and then the children is now having, and then it's having space between all of the children, space between them. So now each of that children is now a parent to another children. Okay. So then, which is this items. This is a container. This is items. And then this is, although I don't like the name, let's just find a way to give it a nice name. So we have container, and then we have, let's give this, what should we give? Okay, let's just say item container. Item container. Let me copy it so I can use it for my styling. Let's remove this. Replace it here. Item container. And then here also save. So we are going to have the same thing. All right. So here we have container. And then we have the item container also, which are children. These are children to this container. And then the item container also contains two child, which is this box and the text. Now we have to pass, okay, we want this item container also to have a flex. Initially, we pass ordinary flex, which gives us a row. And then that is making our box and our text to be beside each other. We don't want it that way. We want it to be in between. All right. That's why then we have to use flex direction column, so that each will now be on a column row, which is the vertical. And then item center, align item center, justify content center. So let me check something. Oh. Okay. This is gap, this is gap, this is gap. All right, so let me say I need padding for this guy also. Padding, let's just pass padding, let's say 10 pixels. All right. Okay, so this is it. We have a parent which contains 4 children, and each of these child also is a parent to 2 children. And then the first parent is taking flex direction, normal flex, no flex direction. So we are giving it a row by default, and then the children justify content space between, which gives us this between, and then align item center, which makes these items to be at the center. And then each of the parent now has another property, which is flex. That means anything you have inside of it should also be flex. All right. And then the flex direction should not be row. Instead, it should be column, which gives us this on this. And then item center, justify content center. Any question? Any further question? If none, let's just let's see what we can do. We are actually out of time. I was thinking we can actually pick this design, but then we are still going to just do it. Let me just take 10 minutes, or yeah, let me take 10 minutes to just fix this. Let me use another image because, okay, let me just teach you guys out. This is a Figma. I will share this link. It's going to be in the resources that we're going to use for our task. Okay, this is going to be in the resources that we're going to use for our task. So I will share this link. You just have to, if you don't have a Figma account before, you can create a Figma account. All right. So create a Figma account so you can extract this one. How do you extract this image from this document? Just click on it. Okay, click on this image, and then make sure you select the image, and then you come to this export, check preview. Now I'm picking the gradients inside of it. If you on top of it, if you check the image, there is a little bit of like a gradient. Gradient means some color, like a black color. That is this. That is what we have there. Okay. But then I don't need that gradient only. I need both the gradient and the picture. So how do I do that? Just hold these two together. Okay. So now let's see export. Oh no. Let me remove this. I don't want to export like that. I need this. Now this is the picture that I need. All right. This is the picture. Okay, let's not get confused though. This is just a normal Figma UI. So when I send you the link, anytime when I send you the link, just or maybe from the resources that you're going to be having on your LMS, just click on the design on the link. It's going to bring you to this place. It's either going to ask you to log in or ask you to sign up if you don't have an account. So if you already have an account, sign in. If you don't have an account, just create an account. Okay, so it's going to bring you to this screen, right? And then here you can see that we have different items here. All of these items represent each of this item here on this design. This is a design from a designer. All those UI UX people, this is what they do. All right. So now we have a text, which is a text here. So we don't need that one. We don't need to copy a text. We can just type it. All right. So what we need is this picture. And then this picture when you come to the screen, this is what you have. And then you need this picture. So this is what you do. Just click on it and then click on the picture. This is what, no, because the gradient is on top of the picture, it's picking the rectangle first. That's why it's picking the gradient first. Now I need this picture itself. Now click on the picture. That will give you the picture. Now come to export. Preview what you want to export first. Make sure it is in PNG. All right. Preview what you want. Now you see, okay, I have this. Then you can now export it. Wow. So now it is downloaded. So you have it preview here. So that's the first thing, to export image from your Figma design. Then after that, I need to export this logo also because I cannot code out this logo. All right, so I need to export this logo. Now click on it, double click, just click on it until you get it. Then after you get it, this is what you have here. Then you can now export that one also. So I have 2 exports already. So what do I need to do? I will need to just move those 2 images to my project. Now let me just click here. Let me open the folder. Open this folder. Now the first one and the second one. This is it. Then this. Now let me copy it. Copy my desktop. My desktop. Go to CodeCamp 3.0. And then here, now in this case, I want to place this inside a folder, but let's place it first. All right, it's copying. So I'm pasting those 2 images in the root of my project. All right, I have the first one and the second one. Okay, so I'm done with that. Now let's go back. Let's see what we need. So now I need to have this and this. Okay, this is a form, more like a sign-up page. When you open a website, you're asked to sign up, all right? So how do I achieve this display? How do I achieve this display? It's very simple. Let's just look at it like this. Remove all these things that you have. You are done with all of those. Then remove all these things that you have. Okay, so let's do it again. Let's start from the beginning. It's going to get really, really, really interesting now. Okay, so I need you guys to try and understand. Let's give this sign up form. Sign up form. I shouldn't be doing this. You're supposed to do it yourself, but then it's going to get really tough. So now try and understand the design. First, you see a design. You need to understand what is inside the design, what you need to do from the design. From the design, now I have a parent. This is a parent. From here like this, the entire this thing is a parent, which that parent is now having 2 children. The 2 children is this image, which is taking 40% of the parent, and then this form, which is taking 60% of the parent. So the first thing, I have a parent. The parent is having 2 children. The first one is this image, taking 40% of the parent, while the second one is this one, taking 60% of the parent. Now, what do I need to do? I need to have a parent first. Now, let's do that. So let's say dot container. Let's just give that container, since it's the great grandparent. And then I have 2 children, which also, these children now, they also have children inside of them. That's why I need to use a div. So I will now say another div item, or let's say left, because the first one is by the left. This one is a div by the left, and this one is a div by the right. So then I will now say the second one dot right. How am I achieving this thing that I'm doing? Sharp this thing class. Just if you want to use a class, use dot, then type your class name, anything you want to have, let's say class, something, just type it, then it's going to give you automatically. You can use hashtag for ID if you need an ID. A class name, then it's going to give you your ID. All right. So now that is what we do. Now inside this place, I have a container, which is the parent. Then I have left, which is this, and I have right, which is this. Okay. So this is what I will do now. This, my parent, is going to take the entire screen. The parent, that's the great grandparent, is going to take the entire screen. So let's go to our styling, and then let's do dot container. Okay. Now let's say height. will now be 100 view height, and then the width will now be 100%. 100%. Then do we need a color? I think the background color is white. So now let's give it background color white. Okay. So that's the first
white smoke.
White smoke. Okay, no problem. White smoke. Now let's save it. Okay, so the parent now is already taking the height of the screen and the width of the screen, and also is taking background color white. Okay, forget about the picture for now and forget about the form. The background color is white. Always a white smoke from what you use. Okay, so now we have 2 children inside of it, and we want these 2 children to be on a single row, to be flexed or to be in line of each other. So what do we do to the parents? We just have to say display flex, and then we say justify content space between. That's it. So with that, that means our first child and our second child is going to be beside each other. All right. Now I need to give, for now, if I should go to my screen, I will only see the parents. I won't see the children. Sorry. I will only see the parent. I won't see the children. See, okay. Yeah, I'm only seeing the parents because we give a white smoke, right? So I'm not seeing the children. So how do I see the children? Is by giving each of the children a width. Now I have a left and I have a right. So what we have here, the left is 40%. The right is 60%. Okay. But then I shouldn't give them 40, 60 because I don't want it to be too close to each other. Or even I can do that. Let's just do that how it is. So now let's call left dot left. Let's say width will now be 40% or 45% of the parent. Then height will now be, let's just give 100%, or let's leave height for now. Then dot right.
It should be 35%.
35, right? Then the parent, that would be too much for the other one. Or do you think 35 is cool? Let's go with 45 first. Then let's say, then I will see how it looks like. Let's say this one 55%. Okay, so let's give it a background just to see the difference. Okay, let's say BG, background color aqua, and then this should give us background color, say blue violet. I just want to see how it's going to look like. So let's see if it's going to work without the height. Okay, that means we have to pass a height. Now let's go. Height should be 100%. Let's see if it's going to work.
100%.
Okay. Let me save this. Well, I'll have to pass view height to it also. Let's say 100 view height. Since it's going to take the entire screen, the entire height of this guy, let's just say 100 view height also. I will explain why that is not working. What is going on?
Simple. So please, you've not linked your CSS to your HTML.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. I forgot. Oh, my God. Thank you. I forgot I cleared everything. Oh my Lord. Okay. Oh man. I've been looking at what is going on. Okay, now we have style.css outside. That's we want to use the one outside. Okay. Oh, this thing is just making me look like what is going on. All right, let me see the 100% if it's going to work still. I'm having concern with height with percentage. Yeah, it worked. Okay. So now we have 100%, 100%. That means we may have to like reduce the width of this one based on what you say. So let's just go to 40 and then make this one 60. 40, 50, 40, 60. Okay, this is cool, right? So we can have our image here and then have our form here. So how do we get our image on this left? Let's remove the border, the background first.
So then we can say background image. Background image is a property, a CSS property that you use in specifying you want to set image to the background of a particular content or a particular div. Remember, this left is a div, which is having 40%, which is this. All of this aqua place is 40%. So we want everything to have, we want it to have an image. We want an image to contain this 40%. So that's what we are trying to do now. So for an image, you pass a URL. For an image background, you pass a URL. And then you say, where is our image located? What's our image? Which image are we trying to use? We're trying to use pixel. Let me just copy the relative part and then paste it here. Okay. Let's see if it's going to work. Yeah, it should work. All right, so we have our image here. How do I even do that? I just copy, right click on this and then copy the relative part. So instead of me typing, I can't really type. I'm supposed to change the name, but we don't have that time anymore. I just copy the relative part and then I paste it here, okay? So that's how I was able to achieve this one. And then don't forget to always include background position. I will just say all of this. You guys can go on, look for it. Just make a research on all of them later. These two, okay, how do you want the background, the image to be located? I want the image to be at the center. Background repeats, that means I don't want it to repeat, although you may not need all of these things, but it's good to know it. Background size, cover. So this size means I want the image to cover the entire screen, and to cover the entire div. I want it to be at the center, that's background position, and I don't want it to repeat. If the background size is it's too small, it could cause the image to repeating itself on the background just to contain the whole screen, but I don't want it to repeat. So that's why we use all of these. Now let's see what we have. So fine, we have it very fine. And again, before I move forward, if you guys notice, I'm seeing some padding like this at around my div. Like there's some padding around there, which I don't want. I want all of this thing to touch the wall. So this padding is by default an HTML or a CSS default value. It automatically gives a padding to your screen automatically. So for us to like override that, we have to pass something like this. Let me show you guys. Make sure you always do this when you are starting your HTML, your CSS. Just do the same padding 0. Say margin 0. That means you are returning everything back to default. Then box size, border content. No, is this no? What's the size? What's the last one? Box sizing. Yeah. Border box. Forgotten. Okay, let's just go with the first two. Let's save this and then let's see what we have. Okay, so those things is gone. That means by default, this padding has the system has padding by default. So I don't need the padding. I want to be the one to specify my padding. So I repeat it. And like I said, like this star is a universal selector. So it selects everything and then give it padding 0, margin 0. And it can be override. This padding can be override if I pass padding to any of this. So I don't want to waste our time. Now we have this, and then our form is going to be located by this right. So let's just say form. We are really out of time. So let's say form now. Here we can have our text inside of it. If you check the design, we have text on top of the background. We have text CodeCamp, and then we have this. Okay. So we can also have the same text inside of this. We can say H1 CodeCamp. CodeCamp, right? And then we can now have the second text, which is P, and say, what is the join our next cohort, or let's forget about that for now. Let's just use the CodeCamp only. So the next one will now be a form. Pass a form. Inside of it, we have our label, our whatever it is we want to have. And then remember that we have, okay, label and the input beside each other. So how do we do that? Let's create a div for that first. Let's say flex. And then we have label. Label is first name. You guys, you can just go and see this code later. I think I'll push it to a GitHub. So in case you guys can label, and then input. Then we have a normal input text. Okay, so coming. Let's wrap this. Let's wrap this in the div. This is going to get really messy, but let's not be confused. I just want to do the first one, then we can all go by doing the other ones. Last name. Okay, so let's see what we have. Okay, so already now we have this and this first name and last name is just like me trying to create a form for us, right? I believe we should be able to do this. How can we achieve this? It's just, okay, you put this guy, all of this is inside a div, a parent. Now we are going to have our sign up as a normal H, just a normal H. And then this one is going to be aligned to the end, flex end, for whatever it is we want to use, the image. Okay, let's do that. Let's just do that. My time is gone. Let's say, okay, let me do that. Image, I need an image. And then the source is this, copy relative part. Let me paste it, Ctrl V. All right, now I'll save it. Let me just style this. Let me call this img, image. And let me call this row. Okay, let me call this form. I can now go to my style and say image dot image. We have flex, display flex, align items, flex end, justify flex end. Okay, now let's save it and then see what we have first. Okay, we have our image at the end. How do we have our image at the end? It's just by making I'm so rushed. I'm so in a rush. Okay, so we have a right, which is having this background. Okay, so let me remove it. And then inside of that one, we have another div because I want my image to be located at the end of the flex. So I have to wrap my image inside the parent. Okay, I have to wrap it inside the parent, and I'll call the parent a div, an image. So that image, I have to style it. How do I style the image? I call it flex. Flex, that image now is there, flex. Align items, maybe that means anything you have inside of view, which is the image, take it to the end of the flex. Take it to the end and then justify it to the end. Just push it to the end. Everything you have inside of it, push it to the end. That's how we were able to achieve this at the end. And then the next one is this, the form itself. All right. So now we don't need to, okay, I think I have a P. Let me use H2, which is sign up. So let's see what we have there. Sign up, fine. And then the form itself, let's give form a padding top, form.form. Okay, let's just use form. Since we are picking the elements, let's say margin top 20 pixels. Okay, and then let's give it padding. No, not yet. Let's give the right a padding 10 pixels. All right, now let's save it. Please, let's not get confused though. Please, so I'm getting to. All right. So then the next one is the row. I had to give this one a row because I need to flex this first name and the last name together. I want to flex it, this div, all of this div and this one. Let's call this one left also, and then this one right, because the one I want to do on the left and the one I want to do on the right. Forget the content inside it. What I'm targeting is the div itself. Now, the row, I'll now call dot row, then I'll say flex, display flex, and then justify content, space between. And I'll save. I can say items, align item also center. Let's save, then see what we have. Fine, this is what we have. So, and like I said earlier, that okay, this label now, I don't want, from the design you guys have, the label is not allowing anything to be on its part. So how do we do that? It's just to call the label. Just call all label at once, because this is the label, this is the label, everything is a label. And all the label is not allowing anything to be on its part. So we just have to call all the label in our styling, just say label, call the element itself and say display, then pass block to it. That's all. And then let's see what we have. See, as easy as that. So we have first name and then the input, we have last name and then the input. So what do I need now is I need this to take the entire width of itself, and this input take the entire width of itself. So I will just call input also. Input. I'm calling them directly because I'm just using the element. Okay. So I'll say width 100%. And then is this nice? No, it should be 50%. Okay, yeah, 50%. Let's see. Okay, no. I'm coming. I need to know what I do here. Row flex between. Okay, this is what I will target. My left and the right. So row dot left and then row dot right. So let's do that. Dot row dot left and then dot row dot right. We are so lost. So I will say width 50%. Then we'll save it. Let's see what we have. Okay. Save background color. Let me just use red to see what I'm working with. Come in. Dot row dot left and then dot row dot right. That should work. I think I need to save. All right. Dot row dot right. Again. Okay. This left. Let me call it container. Dot container dot left. Okay. Why is this image showing under the left? Let me use a different name. Left.
Must have given you the same class name.
Yeah. I know. Let me just change it. I don't expect it to actually get to it though. But then I'm so much in a hurry. So let's see. All right. So now this one is taking 50%, while this one is also taking 50%. So I want you guys to just go back to the design. I'll forward you guys to see it on the task. If you have any concern, any issue, please feel free to reach out to me. Just from what we have done in class today, you have to make sure the input is taking like this width, and then this one is taking the width. So just the way we have this one, you have to arrange, bring another one under it, another one under it. Just make it look nice. However you can do it, just give me something that I can actually do it. All right. So and the last one is a text area, which is going to take the entire. Instead of this one taking 50 and this one taking 50, this one will take 100% at the same time. It's going to take, since it's just one, the same row. Okay? Yeah, I can hear you.
I have a question. This image,
okay,
if you put it on CodeCamp, is it going to show?
The image? Okay. That means we have to, okay, I'll do this. I'll generate a link for this image that we can use. I'll drop it in the resources. So I'll include it in the write-up so you guys will understand. You don't have to like copy this one and paste it inside your code or maybe your project directory. I'll generate a link for these two. Although we are supposed to be able to do that ourselves, right? We're supposed to be able to do that ourselves. We should be able to like get this. I want us to even go to the Figma and then extract the image and then upload it online and generate the link. That's how it's supposed to work. All right. But then
I mean like if we create the whole this UI that you see now, this image will come out like this.
Yeah, it's going to. The only thing is, it's not going to be this black. You know, there's a shade of black on it. That one is a gradient, which I don't want us to go there today. But what we are going to have is just the way it is like this. All right.
We can read on it now.
Yeah, you can what?
You can read on it.
Yeah, you can after if you want to do anything you want to do, just make it look nice. All right. And then there's a text where you can put on top of it, and this text you can just look for a way to arrange it and fix it on top of the image. I know some of us can do it, all right. So, but the most important thing is this front part. Let's feel free to use our flex and then arrange it beside each other. And then you see there's gap between the first name and then the input itself. So margin bottom or margin top, something like that. The same thing for all of these. And then give a gap in between of this. When you flex it, add gap to it so that you can have a gap in between of it. So that's just, and then this one is an input, or let's say a button. Just create a button, and then the way we carry this guy to the end, carry this guy also to the end. The text, create account, and then we have border, radius, and then however you want to be, just make it look nice. Do your best. Please do your best. I'll give you the.
How do you style the button?
Just call the button if you, let's say, okay, I have a button here. Button, and then call the button. Let's say create account. Create account. Just the way you style every other. You can either pass a class to it and say btn, then you call the btn and style it. .btn, say background color, you can just say red, just for example. Then padding, I need padding. Left and right should be, let's say, 30 pixels, and then up and bottom should be, no, this should be up and bottom. Up and bottom should be, let's say, 10 pixels, and then left and right should be 30 pixels. So now let's see what we have out there. Coming, I have to save my index. Okay. So this is what we have. You can see background color red and then padding. So I can choose to give it a rounded, a border radius. I can choose to give it a border radius. Say 15 pixel. Okay, so now save it. And then we have your border radius. But then your own is going to be like one part and the other part is not going to be rounded. So just find a way to fix it. And if you want to place this guy at the end, remember you have to put it inside a parent. You have to put it inside a parent. Let's say dot flex. Let's just put it this way. Put it inside of it. Let's say button parent, button PRT, and then save. Come to your styling. Yeah, btn/PRT, and then say flex, display flex. Say justify content flex end to push it to the end, line items flex end. Then to save it, let's give a margin button, margin top, because it's too close to those guys. Margin top, let's say 40 pixels. Then let's save. Then see what we have. PRT parent. Okay, sorry. Button PRT. All right, so that's just it. That's how you style a button. And then do the normal text like that, do the second one and the third one like that. So thank you very much, guys. If you have any questions, we cannot take questions right now, please. Just feel free.
Can you remove the border?
The what?
Is it possible to remove the black border?
Yeah. You can remove the black border if you don't want. You can just say 0, between pixel, then 0 to achieve what you want. And then this should be like a green, something like this. Let me change it. So let's see. See, simple as that. And then the same thing, you can say the text, just pass the text color. That will give you, change the color of the text to white. So save it, and then let's see what we have. So as simple as that. So I won't be able to take questions. We are so much out of our time. Thank you very much, guys. Your question, I know you have plenty of questions. Drop everything on Discord. Let's meet again on Discord. If you have concerns, you can reach out to me. We can actually have another meet in the evening. If you have concerns, you can. If you don't really get all of these things, just if I have about, let's say, 10% who are ready to meet up at night, I'll actually be available to meet up to explain further how we can go about all of this flexing again. Although we'll still explain more next week, next Thursday. But if you really want to learn this thing or know it better, if someone cannot teach us within ourselves, feel free to reach out to me or any place. We definitely want to help you out. We definitely be ready to help you out. Thank you very much. And expect, after the end of today, expect to see the task on the LMS. All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Simple. So Ichoko. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Simple.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Feel free, please. Let's reach out to you on this channel, please. All right.
Hope not today.
Eh?
Hope not today. We are submitting. No.
You're submitting on Thursday. Funny enough, you only have tomorrow to fix the task. So, but you guys will do it. Let's just talk. So let's talk on Discord. Thank you very much. Let's talk on Discord. On Discord, Unique Messi on Discord. You can reach out to me on Discord.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right,
You're
sir.
welcome.
I can
Thank you, sir.
please end the meeting. I can please end the meeting.